First off, when I set up the application, the organization, um, one of the things I'll be doing is identifying facilities. In my organization, I've actually got a couple of facilities that I deal with. I've got a Georgia and oh, there we go, a Georgia and an Atlanta or Chicago facility. I'm going to focus in on the Georgia. My batch ticket I'm going to do is going to be focused on Georgia, and the WIP account or the production clearing account is found right here. So this is going to be that offset that we've been talking about so far. So for raw material usage, this is going to be a debit. For the finished good production, this is going to be the credit. It should go to a zero balance account. And you will find that for each facility it can have its own WIP account or production clearing account. Now, the other account I wanted to talk about is the additional costs. Specifically, go and grab a additional cost. I think this is going to be a good one. So this is an additional cost ID. You'll set those up against a finished good or against a formula. I'll see that and show that in action against a batch ticket in just a minute. You can have as many additional cost IDs as you want to. In this record is where you identify the cost per unit, and that's, we're calling it direct labor, but don't get too hung up on that. So this is the cost per unit of this additional cost ID. So if I apply 10 units of cost, it's going to get $10. Now, in addition to that, I can also add either on a dollar amount or a percentage, I can add additional costs on top of this $1. So in this case, I've got it marked as percentage. So I'm adding 10% of this cost, which happens to be a dollar. So I'm adding 10 cents for every formula labor ID unit that I apply. So if I apply 10 units, I'm going to get $10 in this cost. I'm also going to get another dollar per unit on this. So I've got $11 that I'm dealing with now. And then on top of that, I'm adding a thing we're calling variable overhead for another 20%. So I've got another $2 in this example that's going into this. Now, the GL accounts I want to point out are right here. So this 20% is going to be taken to this GL account, this 10% is going to be taken to that GL account, and this hourly rate is going to be taken to that GL account. So I'm going to have different dollar amounts go into these various GL accounts. So for one labor ID, I can actually have 3 GL accounts that are being hit. Most people just deal with a direct labor or this first line and take all the money based on that labor rate and don't apply the others. But know that this is here that you could add additional costs related to this hourly rate. So that's the additional cost. Now let's actually see this in action, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up a batch ticket. And there we go, and pick him up. So I've been playing with this batch ticket a little bit. I've really simplified it a good bit, but basically all it's doing is it's consuming 2 raw materials, DCRM 05 and 06 at 25 pounds each, and then I'll be putting, I guess it's 10 pounds on hand. I'll just keep it really simple. In addition, what some of you may not use or be aware of is the additional cost IDs that can be applied. So in this case, for the formulation, I'm using a fixed 7 hours period for the batch, and I'm adding 15 minutes per pound that I'm processing. Those are in costs. And we looked at that form labor. There's another additional cost out there called mixed labor. I'm also adding some labor based on the finished goods. So this is packaging cost as well. So tied to the finished good, I've also got some labor going on. So let's see this in action, if you will. These are my theoretical costs. My theoretical material costs is for the 20 to 50 pounds in total of raw material. This is the anticipated labor costs, and in a moment you'll see these starting to come alive. So I'll just go ahead and keep it really simple and say I'll issue all. So basically I'm going to take that entire $25. You're seeing my unit costs come in line. I'm also going to complete all, which means I'm going to say I'm going to make those 10 units. Let me go ahead and do that. Now there's actually some backflushing that's happening on additional costs. In other words, I have my system configured to automatically assume that I'm using my standard number of hours. So I'm applying 1 unit and 7 units of those costs. And then for the finished good, I'm doing the same here. So I'm just letting the system apply its standards, but I could override that if I want to. The real exercise in this is to identify the GL account and the GL flow. So this is what we're about to see over in the general ledger for a cost. Let me go ahead and post this. And once it comes back, it's basically showing that everything posted successfully. There are a number of transactions that are happening. There's a transaction first off for my raw material usage. That's going to be inventory adjustment 353. Then I've got a labor applied, which is a journal entry. And then finally is the finished good being put on hand at 354. So let's go take a look and see what's going on in the general ledger. It's actually already posted through my inventory transactions into inventory. And let's go see what's happening over in the general ledger then. All right, so what we've got now is we've got our two transactions that are coming in from inventory. I'm sitting at the general ledger right now. And this is the transaction for the raw material usage coming from that same batch we were playing with. Let me go ahead and just pull up that transaction. You can see what's going on. So what we've got now is my finished good is being debited in this case, and my offset account is being credited. And getting back to our T account, what you're seeing, the journal entry I just brought up is this transaction right here that's represented of the 60. And if I navigate around a little bit, I'll actually see my raw materials coming in. So this is my usage of my raw materials, which is a credit to my raw material account and a debit to my offset account. I'm actually got that happening a couple of different inventory items so that I'm actually seeing some additional usages. Remember that I've got raw materials as well as packaging going into this. So I've got a series of transactions 1, 2, and 3. I've got 2 different raw materials and packaging associated with that. So that's my raw material part of the transaction. And then I've also got the labor component as well to all of this. And I'll go ahead and pick this up. Now this is being written directly to the general ledger. So the batch ID it looks a little bit different because it's being written directly to the general ledger with its own batch ID. And so here what I'm showing is that 141.30 of cost that we are seeing over in my batch entry. My 141.10 plus 20 is 30. So 141.30 is what I'm seeing over in my general ledger related to my my labor transactions. And if I open this up just a little bit, you'll see I've got some inventory labor going to a certain account and then my offset for $1. And then I've got my 10 cents going to my fixed overhead. And then I've got my 20 cents going. And then this 141 is related to my packaging labor. So in short, really what we're talking about here then is we're booking the labor applied and running it through the production clearing account. And then after that is done, we're actually picking up the finished good transaction right in here. So that's my finished good valuation that I've got going on for 332.60. That's what we've got to show. I hope this helps. Just remember that if you ever need to go back to the T accounts, we've got raw material usage, application of additional costs, and putting finished good on hand and providing a value for that. We hope this has been helpful. Let us know what we can do to help you in the future, and make sure to keep your software updated so that you can take advantage of all of the great updates that we've got out there. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.